Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. It is an Omega run, so we are going to focus on some backlogs and then get caught up on some books that we had to review for last week. But, of course, for these Omegas, we just go ahead and jump right into the review, so let's get to it, shall we? And so for today, we have 10 books as per usual. I do have the video up as well, so I have everything up here on the screen. But for the audio folks, I'll just call off the books as I typically do, so you know what books I'm reviewing in what particular order. So we have Absolute Batman. This is the 2025 annual. Then we have Imperial, issue number 4. The Rocketfellers, number 10. And those are the 3 books from last week, and then everything else here is going to be a backlog. So we have Storm, number 11, X-Men 21, Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue number 3, Phoenix, number 14, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, number 35, Death of the Silver Surfer, issue number 5, and then Batman and Robin, issue number 10. So those will be the 10 books that we review, and we'll do it in that order. We'll start off with Absolute Batman, the annual. And if you recall, and if you tuned into Saturday's issue, which was 53, this was overwhelmingly the book of the week, at least on League of Comic Geeks. Like 70+% was voted for this book. So I was very excited to get to it. It is the most recent book I read. So I read, I think, 5 or 6 before I hopped on to, the computer and started recording here. And I completely and totally understand why that is. So let's go ahead and flip over to the screen for, the video folks. I gave this book a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6. So a very, very strong score out the gate. For the annual here, you had 3 different stories within the issue here. So it is a larger book. It is a $6 book, so $5.99, so keep that in mind. But it's all about this first story. And you can tell the biggest reason that this book is so popular is because it is a big commentary on a lot of what is happening now in the United States from a politics perspective, right? So if you're on the left side of the political spectrum, you absolutely love this. If you're on the right side, maybe you just felt like you were attacked, so I get that. But comics are, in general, a very left-leaning industry, so I'm sure a lot of people ate this up, as League of Comic Geeks was any sort of indication, right? So we basically have Batman here. He is trying to do some sort of plan here where he's trying to gather some non-lethal weapons, but in the midst of all of this, he gets caught up in some crazy situation of big company said that there was going to be work here. The company pulled out. There's a bunch of people displaced. And then you have like these white nationalists who are effectively portrayed as Nazis that are going to go into this kind of, tent encampment basically and scare off and they're portrayed to be immigrants, right? So obviously Bruce sees this. He has an issue with this. He goes and he takes a quick beating beforehand, and this does the nice thing that Absolute Batman has done with going back and forth between Bruce's growing up and then Bruce presently. And so he's having some conversations with his dad and trying to understand why the world is the way that he is. When he gets mugged that first time, there's this priest that comes in and like starts talking to some of the kids who are like, dude, you're not like this. Like, what has happened to you? And so that priest takes Bruce, who's beaten up, to his house, and he sees a photo. And that photo is actually a photo of him and his father that's revealed to us later in the story. And so that's when Bruce is just like, screw, I just got to take these guys out. Gets all dressed up into the bat suit and goes and just completely tears apart all these white nationalists and just destroys them, right? So huge commentary politically on what is happening here. It is epic, it is awesome, and I completely understand why it got the score that it was. So incredible story there. So that's the first part. The next part here is kind of cleaning up from the party animals, which was like the first group of villains that we were dealing with in Absolute Batman. And so it's like a kid. He goes back to his church with a bunch of his buddies. but they basically are trying to take this church over from their father and specifically go after some weapons. I guess Batman got word of it, and so he goes in and infiltrates and basically takes all these guys out one by one up until the point of it's the kid who you could tell was fell into peer pressure and like fell into this group, and maybe he shouldn't have fallen into this bad group. So takes them all out and then leaves, the father and the kid to, kind of heal and move forward in their lives. And then the very last section is just a couple pages, and it's basically talking about bats and who they are, and like, they're actually loyal and they help out one another, and there's so many of them out there, and they clean out all these bugs, and it's just showing like all these statistics, but then also like the good stuff that Batman's actually doing on the side as well. So a nice little piece there. So yeah, let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork here. Now this is an annual, so obviously it's a time to jump in. It's just a one-off story, and like look at that right there. This is Batman with a freaking flamethrower burning down this white national, and it looks very similar to like a Nazi Third Reich symbol, right? So they're hitting the nail on the head onto what exactly we are talking about right here. And it's so funny how, I don't want to get into like the crazy political stuff, but for Superman, they're like talking about for the Superman movie how he's gone woke. I'm here talking on a comic book podcast, so you already know, if you've been reading comics, that Superman is like the most woke of woke that woke has ever been, right? And so it's so funny that right wing is like complaining about that. But here's like another example of, this would be labeled as woke when in beyond a shadow of a doubt it is like just justice, right? Like that is all that this is you are torturing oppressed people, and I'm just a stronger power trying to prevent it, and I gotta take you out. So he's doing it the way that he knows how, and it is just awesome. So that's most of the first piece there. Then we get into some of the artwork from the second one, which is a lot darker story and tone, and it's more of like, Batman hiding in the shadows and taking out people one by one, rather than going out in the open with a flamethrower and just going kind of ham. So that's that piece. And then the final towards the end here is basically just like these little facts, and you see Batman in the background, and whatever the facts are, it's basically matching up to what Batman is doing in that background there. So that's Absolute Batman, the annual #1. Again, annuals are kind of just one-offs, so 100% you can jump into this. You'll get a sense of the art style, get a sense of the character, if this is something that you want to pursue moving forward. I'd say Absolute Batman, I don't want to say objectively, obviously, because all of this is very subjective, but if you said it's the #1 book going in comics right now, there's not many people that are going to argue with you. So it's kind of like, what is the thing, the #1 thing to pursue, and then this book just really solidifies of like, hell yeah, like you're matching up with all the vibes that are as the world continues to fall apart around us that we all live in. So anyways, Absolute Batman issue #1, I gave it the annual 2025, I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.6. And with that being said, I'll also say that this is the comic of the week. Very, very good. Figured let's just get to it. 70+% on League as far as like pick of the week. Obviously, that was going to be the one, right? So, and I'm glad I lived up to the hype, because sometimes things, it'll be like 40%, and I still won't think that, in me personally, that it was the pick of the week, but I did in this case. So, got this like mean glare here. See if we can fix that on the books. We cannot. Okay, it is what it is on the top left corner. So next up we have is Imperial issue #4. So this one, I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.6. For me, I mean, this book, it's a Hickman joint, so we're trying to do like Exposition City here, but it just wasn't the best in how it was executed, in my opinion. So if I flip over here to the actual screen, you can see that League wasn't super happy with it either. I would say the biggest issue that you have here is just how they decided to wrap this whole thing up. So as a kind of a quick reminder here, we have we're in deep space in like the far future, where we have all these different civilizations that are now fighting each other, and the reason that they're fighting each other all has to do with this war that the Wakandans are getting blamed for, of like taking out a political leader, while they're all joined up and looking to create this union. So Last issue we found out it actually has nothing to do with any of these different 5 or 6 rivaling factions that were about to join together. It actually has to do with the Inhumans, and they're trying to save their own civilization, and in order to do so they needed to create a conflict that everyone else was at war and create all this chaos. So we have Star-Lord, Shuri, and Nova who know this, and they are going to try to inform everyone. So that was issue 3. Then we get to issue 4, and it is just continued all-out war. So the Kree and Skrulls, they're going after it. The Star-Lord, Nova, and Shuri are trying to race to where they're at. The Wakandans are defending as best as they can. And the war basically continues. And you get to the point where Shuri, Star-Lord, and Nova are trying to get to the point where they can announce it to everyone. But as they are running into people, you can just tell that, like, there's no way that cooler heads are going to prevail. Like, it's just full and all-out war. And then suddenly you turn the page and it's like days later, and suddenly they decided, like, yeah, we do need to join up together. And it didn't really make sense to me as to how that came to a resolution. Beyond that, you have the Wakandans who are blamed for the whole thing, and T'Challa's just like, all right, let's just let bygones be bygones. And it's like, that doesn't make much sense. Like, you had a whole bunch of your people that were just persecuted and slaughtered, and you were wrongfully accused on all of it. So that's just kind of weird, and that's how it ends. And it ends in a union and all but one of the civilizations, the Shirari or whatever, basically the ones that Professor X is with. So I was not okay with that. Obviously, League wasn't either, coming in with a 3.6, me at a 3.5. So the only saving grace here is really the artwork. So let's go ahead and flip through that. Artwork is excellent. So it is awesome, action-paced, very high octane, great detail, a bunch of explosions. We're out in space. We got spaceships, and it's what you would traditionally expect from a comic book, but at a very high level, very high detail. It's an expensive book too. This is $6.99, so it's a $7 book. It's definitely longer. It's a 56 pager, so you basically have the length of a comic and a half. Borderline 2 comics here, so that does justify it. You got Hickman writing it, but he doesn't really bring it home for me, which is a big miss, unfortunately. But the colors are super fantastic. It's not just kind of like that dark, dreary space where you just have a bunch of blacks and grays and then, maybe some starlight. But it's mostly like blasts and fire and different, psionic beams and things like that. So all of that is done really well. But the story, it's kind of a cluster. So it's interesting. It's like, after all that, what would I say on this? Do I recommend it or do I not? And it's kind of tough to say. The first issue I loved a lot. The second and third one were like, okay, and then this one doesn't really nail it. So of the 4, it's really only number 1 that I think is truly worth it. So in the end, I'd say it's not really a recommend, unfortunately. I had high hopes for it. Number 2 and number 3 seemed like okay, and then if we were going to conclude it all and wrap it up nicely in a bow, then yeah, it would have been a recommend. But you have okays to then, just fell off a cliff there. So in the end, can't truly recommend it. And then obviously with it being issue number 4 and the last one, it's not the one really to jump into. So if you can find it number 1 out there, you can definitely read that. And it's like, okay, this could be an epic adventure, but just be warned that it's really not. So yeah, that's Imperial issue number 4. I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.6. So then next here, which is going to be the last of the pulls from last week, is going to be the Rocketfellers. So surprisingly, I didn't think I was going to be as low and that League was going to be this high. So I gave it a 4, which is a great score. But League gave it a 4.4. So League was way higher on this than I was. And I think for me, you had great action in the book, but overall, the story was very one-dimensional as far as what happened. So basically, we have Mr. Rockefeller, Rocketfellers, and they're from the future. And he is a scientist, and he basically found a way to create immortality, for lack of a better term or phrase. But they can modify your DNA to where you kind of grow and you can have like stem cells forever, basically. So there's this company in the future that his sister is married to the CEO. They want to obviously monetize this. They feel like this is the game changer that would solidify the company's future. Big time capitalism stuff. And so Roland is like, I don't want to be a part of this at all. And while that happens, the rival company attacks them. So the CEO dies and the sister nearly dies. And this has been really the reason why Roland and his family had to go to the past, which is our time now, 2025, because the sister is going after them, A, for revenge for her husband, but B, to like try to get this technology and bring it to the future. But Roland's whole thing is like, this is too dangerous and we don't know what's going to happen if it ends up in the wrong hands. And then beyond that, what he can see from what was his brother-in-law and his sister, what they wanted to do with it, it just, is not what humanity needs. And so now we're at the point where the sister she's like all messed up and like from the attack and everything. She's got like all these scars and everything. And she almost looks kind of Darth Vader-y. And she has triangulated where exactly Roland and the family are in the past. And then actually in this issue travels to the past. It's Halloween. So she goes to chase them down. And of course, she like looks like this crazy futuristic thing, but it's Halloween, so what does it matter, right? Just look like you're cosplaying or whatever. And goes and finds Roland and his family as they're packing up and leaving. So they get in their van, they start racing off. The brother, Roland has another brother who's in the future, is trying to get them out of there, try to help them, but he's not quite able to triangulate them and get them into the future or get them to a different place. But they're like, yeah, we can, quote unquote time travel you, but basically move you from one location to the other all within the same timeline. So they like basically teleport them all throughout the world until finally they get to a place. The bus looks like it goes off of some sort of cliff and then lands on the ground. And so we don't know, are they alive? Are they not alive? And we don't even know where they are. But the sister wasn't able to get to them. So that's it. That's all that takes place really in this issue. But it is a lot and it's super action packed. So let's go through the artwork here so you can take a look. And you have some great detail on the sister here, right? So this is her, like all damaged and screwed up. Let's see, how's the glare look on that? And she finally makes it to the past. Of course, the kids go trick-or-treating real quick before they're off. And here she is right here where all like the kids see the sister all dressed up. But this is what she needs basically to survive. And now the hunt is on. So she finally gets to them. They're able to make their escape in this van. And then they try to go to the future. They're working with their brother there. And then finally they're able to get away. Here's where they teleport. And then the van lands like face down and boom, they're like completely crashed. So it's like, looks like they're somewhere out in the desert. And that's where it's going to pick up in the issue that takes place in December. So yeah, I mean, I gave it a 4. Is it a good place to jump in? No, because we're at a big climatic part, but actually I think issue number 11 is going to be a good place to jump in. So if you're interested in this book, then that might be a good spot. Rocketfellers took a while for it to finally pick up, and then finally when we went into the future to understand the whole conflict here, things have just been like pretty awesome at this point. But for me, the book didn't quite get pushed over to a 4.5 in my opinion. Still kind of kept it at a 4. So that's the Rocketfellers. Issue number 10, gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.4. Alrighty, then from that we go into our backlog here. So we're going to start off with Storm, issue number 11. So this one I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.7. And yes, this is the correct issue of Storm that I have up, unlike I did for issue number 53. But that's completely fine. Neither here nor there. So this story here, it is pretty confusing as to how we got here, but where it's headed is like fine. So that's the 3.5 instead of a 3. So we have Storm. She is the herald to eternity, and eternity and infinity have been fighting each other for as long as time has existed. And every single time infinity wins, and eternity continues to like have a different herald. So now Storm has the powers of eternity, or is like beyond the Omega level threat that she has been. And she's disrupting the balance with all the thunder gods, basically. And the original thunder god is this god called Hadad, and he's arrived. And basically the Thunder Council, which is made up of like Zeus and a whole bunch of other gods, and they're trying to decide, do we help out Storm? Do we help out Hadad? So only one hero raises their hand to help out Storm, and the rest want to help out Hadad, because I think basically they're afraid of Hadad. And so it basically comes to like, Storm, yeah, sorry, we voted against you. You're going to have to go and face Hadad all by yourself. And that's effectively the story and the cliffhanger at the end, where she'll have to face off against Haddad in the final issue. Now, I don't have issue number 12. My polls actually stopped at issue number 10. I saw this in the shop and I was like, okay, I'll try to finish it towards the end here. But this one was only so-so. The last book was really bad. And then I peeked ahead to what the final issue was, which wasn't well received either. That only got a 3.5. So I was like, okay, if I find it in the store, great, but I'm not going to hunt for it online. And then sure enough, number 12 was sold out. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to, stress about not seeing how this one ends. But I would imagine Storm ends up winning some way, somehow. The fact that it was only a 3.5 means probably not wrapped up the best way that you would have hoped it would have been. So that's fine. And it's where the journey ends here on this book. But before we completely close the chapter here, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the artwork. You do have this cool kind of fight scene here, which is this B subplot of this child that was saved by Storm in the very first issue. It's basically a mutant that got their powers, and Storm was trying to protect her. So you have this Galactus that has died from Infinity, and you have Bishop trying to save the kid while fighting over the corpse of Galactus. So that looked pretty cool. Here's Storm fighting off Infinity before Haddad basically arrives, and basically that kid goes up to Storm and is like, this is too much. This is basically like what happened at the power plant, we got to stop. Here's where the Council of the Thunder Gods are, and basically where you have, what's his face? Billy Ray? That's his name, right? Where he's basically the only one that sides with Storm. Everyone else is with Haddad. And so then you have Haddad's arrival here, and Storm coming to the realization of damn, I got to fight this on my own. And it kind of just is what it is. So yeah, that is where the story will end for me. Not sure where it will all go, but that is totally, completely fine. So that's Storm issue number 11. Again, I gave this one a 3.5, and Lee gave it a 3.7. So from one X-Men book to another, we have The X-Men issue number 21. So this one, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. I was between a 3.5 and a 4, so that makes perfect sense to me. I'll say for this book, 100% is a filler book. Not even setup book, it is just filler. So we have Lundquist and Cyclops from issue number 20 who are in jail. So Magic is now in charge of the X-Men. And we're getting a callback here to one of the characters that they picked up who got her mutant powers later. She was part of, not part of, but was turned into a mutant from a group called, I gotta be reminded of the name, the Upstarts. And so Magic is basically hey, let's just go after these Upstarts since I'm now in charge. And everyone's like, hell yeah, let's do it. So that's majority of the issue. 80% of it is just this fight between the mutants and the X-Men and the Upstarts. And so in the end, the X-Men are able to win pretty handedly. And from there, they had a sponsor, and his name is Sugarman. And so Sugarman looks like he's going to do some dastardly thing that's going to happen next, but we don't quite know what it is. And then you read, here's what's going to happen in issue number 22, and it has nothing to do with Sugarman. It's going to start to do with Revelation, and as we get to the age of Revelation. So kind of a weird thing that foreshadowing, but it's we're not even going in that direction. So that's why I definitively say that this was just truly filler and kind of a side quest that they needed to wrap up here. So with that being said, is this one to jump into? Probably not, right? It doesn't really make much sense. I didn't say what to do for Storm. Storm, you don't need to jump into that one at that point either, at issue number 11 out of 12. But for 21 here, I mean, it's fine. You could read this. It's not going to connect to anything else. So there's that. But at the same time, I wouldn't really, recommend jumping into this one either. Just go ahead and start at issue number 22. Would make more sense to me. And this one came out in August, which means you probably have one in September, and then thus October as well would be my guess. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at that since I have it up here. I know I have 22, but is 23 out? Yeah, no, 23 is not until January. So issue number 22 is going to be the most recent one anyways. So if your local comic book shop has X-Men on the shelf, this is going to be the most recent one. Start at 22, not at 21, which is what I'm reviewing right now. But with that, let's go ahead and talk about the artwork here, which is fine. Standard Marvel is what I'd say. A lot of fight scenes is what's taking place here between the X-Men and Upstart. So those are pretty good. A little sillier and goofier because the Upstarts are kind of weird with a whole bunch of weird powers. So kind of keep that in mind. But overall, I think it was a fine issue, but nothing that was too crazy. So yeah, that's X-Men number 21. I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 3.8. So from there, go into yet another X-Men book, or mutant book anyways. We have Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue number 3. And this one I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book, really good. I mean, the covers, of course, definitely in the Gooner territory. And there's some elements of that, I think, throughout the book. But it's really not the focus of this one. We have Emma Frost here, who's being framed for being the person who allowed mutants into the Hellfire Club and causing the X-Men to infiltrate the one in Buenos Aires, and they destroyed it. So they think she's a mole, basically, and that she's a spy and like working with the X-Men. And last issue, her assistant, Noor, Noor, has basically betrayed her and is siding with Sebastian Shaw, and I think her name's Tessa. And they are now trying to get after Emma. Emma somehow needs to clear her name. So she is in Rome. Noor has left, and in the middle of the night, a bunch of Sebastian's men come in to try to kidnap Emma, but she's able to get away. She gets to the airport and creates a whole bunch of confusion and diversions. She has psionic abilities, right? So she just basically tricks everyone into doing whatever she needs them to do. And she boards a plane, and they're not quite sure which plane it is, but it's a plane to Hong Kong. So when she gets off, she heads to the Hellfire Gala there, or Hellfire Club there. And obviously her membership is revoked and everything. She's like, I don't care about any of that. I'm heading on in and I'm talking to Liu. And Liu is like the head of that particular club. And Emma says to him, hey, you owe me a favor. I saved you from X, Y, and Z before. So you need to save me now. He's like, okay, fine. You know what? I could use you and your abilities. I'm not going to give anything for free, of course. But he goes and leaves the room. And so Emma immediately knows, like, he's just calling directly to Shaw right now to let him know that I'm here. But in that room with Liu was his mother. And his mother is like, I have a way that I can get you out of here as he goes to betray you right now. But I'm old. My husband died. You can obviously implant some memories. Give me some memories of my late husband, and I'll allow you to escape. So that's what she does. There's an elevator in the back that she knows the code to. Emma slips out the back that way, and then she's still on the run and basically stays one step ahead. So I like it. It's kind of like a spy thriller-y thing, and Emma's trying to figure out, okay, who's after her, who can she trust, all while she's trying to clear her name, and all of the Hellfire Club is basically after her. So I think it's pretty cool. So let's flip into the artwork itself here. And it's almost like an origin story in a way. Like, they say this book takes place like after X-Men from the 60s. So this is like old school. And it's like, I don't know anything about Emma Frost outside of like Krakoa era, but I'm like, how much of that is like truly who Emma Frost is? I read some of the Iron Man stuff too. So it's like, I just don't know quite the origins. So it's good to get some background on this character too, which I've been enjoying. So here she is out on the run, getting onto some sort of private jet. Heading, she says she's got one more stop before she goes to New York, probably to confront everyone. So that's Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue number 3. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well. And then our final X-Men book is going to be Phoenix. So Phoenix number 14 here. I gave this one a 3.5. League gave it a 3.6. So right there with League. This is the second to last one for Phoenix. I know for a fact that issue number 14 is really bad. So I did not pick that up. Yeah, it got a 2.8. So similar thing here. I didn't actually pull issue number 14. But I was like, okay, we're only 2 away from completing it. If the shop has it, I'll go ahead and grab it. And they had 14. They didn't have 15. I saw the negative reviews, and like the same exact thing with Storm. I was like, all right, just not going to see how it ends. And that's totally and completely fine. But for this book, we have Jean Grey, who is the Phoenix. She, I want to say it was like issue 9 or something like that, where she had to send all the dark gods back to their dimension, like went supernova. But when she did that, she created an anomaly, which ended up being an image of her sister, Sarah Grey. And she's trying to figure out, how does she exist? And Cable was the one that helped her realize that she's an anomaly that you created with your huge, Phoenix blast, and we have to do something about it. And so she heads to the White Hot Room to basically figure out, okay, here's like the origin of everything. Like, how am I going to deal with this? But when she's there, she runs into, I think his name is the In-Betweener. And he is the one that keeps the balance on any of these sort of anomalies. And they're like, they got to go. And so Jean's trying to figure out, like, well, how can I like save her without actually destroying her? And the In-Betweener's like, there is no doing that. You just have to get rid of her. Otherwise, she's going to slowly start to consume power, and then the whole universe is at threat. So while they're having their discussion, all like these entities and beings, like the Living Tribunal, I think it's like Eternity and Infinity and all of them, all these gods basically start showing up because they basically want to see what's all going to happen here. Because Phoenix is like that level, right? Phoenix is borderline like the most powerful entity in the Marvel universe. So they're like, what the hell is going to happen here? They're basically there to witness. And this battle go down between the In-Betweener guy and Phoenix. But at the very end, all the incarnations of Phoenix then show up. So all the different characters that the Phoenix has been show up to like back up Phoenix. And now it's going to be like this massive fight between these two, all to decide the fate of Jean's sister, quote unquote sister, Sarah Grey. So that's the story. Pretty cool. Not the one to jump into because you're missing a bunch of context. You'd have to go back a couple of issues, but at this point I can't really recommend it. Stick with like issues 1 through 8. He had a great story here, and then things kind of got crazy from there once we diverted to this arc here. But the arc is fine, serviceable for Marvel. I'd say nothing too special, but overall I think pretty good. So this is like the In-Betweener guy, and they have like their initial fight where it's effectively just a standoff. But here's where you have all those other gods that are looking in. So it says what? Lord of Chaos, Eternity, Continuum, the Paradaned or something. The Predained, the Living Tribunal, Oblivion, Master Order, Infinity. Yeah, so it is like all those like crazy high level are all there to just witness and look on. So here's Jean with Sarah Grey trying to figure it all out. And then at the very end here is where you have these different entities of the Phoenix that are there to basically back up Jean Grey as well. So, yeah. Big fight is on afterwards. I won't be there for it. So that is Phoenix number 14. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.6. And then a couple more here. We have Miles Morales, issue number 35. This one is awesome from a cover perspective. This is definitely the cover of the week. You have like kind of these Greek hieroglyphic looking, almost like the way I think about it is the Polynesian for Disney. If you're familiar with the hotels at all, that's kind of what it looks like from like the drawing of it, but it's more of like an ancient Greek thing. But it's such a cool cover. Go ahead and look that up. Cover A for Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 35. So I gave it a 4. Lee was way lower on it. Lee gave it a 3.5. I don't think it deserved that low of a score, but I could see it being between 3.5 and a 4. But for me, this worked for me. So we have this this battle between Anansi and Ares, and both sides have picked their heroes, and you have these different rounds of fighting. So round 1 was Dr. Kwan, which is Miles's therapist, took on one of these lesser gods. Come to find out that Dr. Kwan is actually a Hulk, so she's able to win pretty handedly. Then we have 2 more participants that face off, so it's like 4 in total in this trial. It's like a reenactment of one of Hercules' trials where he had to face off against these birds with like these razor-sharp talons. They all had to work together, so no one was really defeated, and it ended up being a draw. And now we're coming up to the point of the final trial, but Anansi wanted to tell us about his first herald, Arachne, and the reason why he's got this grudge against Ares. So that leads us to issue 35. He starts telling the story. way back in the day. You have Ares and Athena. They're up in Olympus, and Ares, being an asshole, is basically like, hey, Athena, I hear that there is this human weaver for, clothing that claims that she is the greatest weaver in the world. So Athena's like, I'm not taking that shit. So I'm going to go down disguised as a human and confront her. So that's what she does. And she goes to the weaver's house and sees her weaving. It's like, oh my gosh, you're so good. I hear you're incredible. The weaver's like, yeah, thank you so much. And it's like, I hear there's a rumor you're better than Athena. And then she just jokingly goes like, oh yeah, of course I'm better than Athena, in jest, right? And she reveals herself that I'm Athena, and like, how dare you, and gets extraordinarily offended and takes her back up to Olympus and has her killed. Like, all because Ares started a freaking rumor. So Anansi is there and he's watching her weave for, I guess, a long time. And he became enthralled with her. And then the fact that they just murdered this innocent girl because of a stupid rumor because Ares was bored was like, what the hell? So it worked for me because I was like, damn, dude, these are how the Greek gods are truly portrayed. Like, just the worst of the worst as far as like character is concerned. And so like, shit, and Nancy's pissed off at all this. So it worked for me because I was like, wow, very justified reason to want to go after this man, because an innocent life was just lost for no reason. And so, we learned that story. And then now Ares is extraordinarily pissed off because he's like, feels that, hey, I'm going to handle the situations however I feel fit. And Anansi, of course, by telling the story, reignites his anger as well. But Ares decides that we need to change up the venue of where this last battle is going to take place. So the first one was Mount Olympus. The second one is wherever in Greece that Hercules had that trial for, the birds with the steel talons. And then Ares changes up the venue one more time, and boom, they're back in Brooklyn, outside of the Brooklyn, Science Academy where Miles goes to school, and then that's where the final battle is going to take place. So pretty cool book. I enjoyed it. You can see why I gave it a 4. I'm like really hyping it up, but I was surprised that League was so much lower on it because it worked for me. So the artwork, let's flip into that, right? So here's, basically that conversation with Arachne and Athena revealing herself and everything, and like how screwed up that is. The other thing too is like, so when these two got fired up, they did have a quick little, tiff between each other of Anansi and Ares, but Ares was like, well, we have to have like the actual final round, and that's when he decided to change up the arena and then bring them all back to the outside the Brooklyn Visions Academy. I can't remember the name of these schools. So, but that's where they're at for the final battle. So, sweet book, sweet cover. Is it the time to jump in? I think, if memory serves, we're on like 38. So this is 35. 36 came out in August. Internet's so slow today. 37 also came out in August. 38 came out in September. Oh, that's right. I definitely know that cover. And then 39 in October. So around 40 or so. So you can jump into this one, but we're towards the tail end of the arc. You might as well just go current at this point would be my recommendation. But cool cover. I mean, if you want it just for the art, look at it. It looks dope. So huge A+ on that, and the cover of the week. So that's Miles Morales, Spider-Man, issue number 35. Again, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.5. All right, then the next one here is going to be Death of the Silver Surfer issue number 5. Man, so this was brutal. I gave this one a 3. League gave it a 2.8. Folks, this one is just not good. It is a cluster as to what is happening here. I can't even really begin to explain what is taking place in this book. It is so difficult to explain. So I'll try. We have the blood of Galactus that's heading towards Earth, and it's going to destroy and kill a whole bunch of people. There's this guy, I think his name's Harmon. He's trying to collect the blood of Galactus for evil reasons. And Kelly Coe is like a deputy or the second in command of this group working for this guy. And the Silver Surfer is trying to prevent this, but Calico is like tasked with collecting these aliens. So she imprisons the Silver Surfer. And you have the Fantastic Four who come out and they try to help out, and Calico gets involved with them in a couple of issues, and then now it's just her and the Silver Surfer. This blood is heading towards Earth, but Calico lives up on a space station in space, so the blood heads and hits the space station first where her mother is. So she goes and tries to save the space station. Silver Surfer gives her powers basically of the Surfer to save her. So then now we're in issue 5. She gets to her, but she doesn't get there in time, and the mother looks like she dies. So then Silver Surfer takes his powers back. Then they go after, kind of the blood of Galactus that's out there. And Silver Surfer starts going crazy and starts fighting it, but it's like not enough. Then the Avengers come to help out. And Silver Surfer attacks the Avengers. So it looks like maybe in rage or whatever, but it looked like he attacked them like they were down. Then they randomly show up and they're okay again. Then the Silver Surfer decides I need to sacrifice myself in order to stop this, and then gives all his powers back then to Calico in the end. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I don't know why the Avengers showed up. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. It's a weird ass book, guys, and the scores for all of this have been pretty abysmal. The only saving grace of this book are the covers have always been dope. So if you look at it right now for issue number 5, pretty cool to cover overall. And issue number 1 in particular was probably one of the best covers of the entire year, to be honest with you. But that being said, it just does not make up for how terrible the story is. So no, I do not recommend this. Stay away from it. It's really unfortunate. I do like Silver Surfer books, but man, this one was just a swing and a miss. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the interior art, which was fine, I guess, but when the story is so convoluted, it's like, it's might as well just be pretty pictures on the page. There's no story, and it's a comic book. It's a book, so I'm supposed to get a story out of it. You know what I'm saying? It's not just art for pretty art's sake. Even though it's, it's good. You got the purple blast, the purple hues, and the silvers and all that, right? So those look good and they contrast well with one another and all that stuff. But in the end, it's just the story, man. I don't even know what we're doing here. So that's depth of the Silver Surfer issue number 5. I gave it a 3. Lee gave it a 2.8. And then the final book here, we have Batman and Robin issue number 10. So I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. This was a great book. Nice conclusion to the Man-Bat saga, at least for now. At least I thought so. It's very traditional comic book ending, if you will, and exactly ends how you would expect it to, basically. So we got to the point where Batman was captured by Man-Bat, and Man-Bat was using Batman to try to fine-tune his poison gas that he's going to send out into Gotham via the bats as the carrying vessel. So Robin frees Batman. Man-Bat is leaving, so Batman goes and pursues Man-Bat, and Robin goes and basically pursues the bats. And the whole thing with the bats is we got to control them, but at the same time, he doesn't want to kill the bats either. As Robin is going to pursue the bats, he runs into Shush. So Shush was injured, of course, from her time with Man-Bat, and when he runs into her, Robin's like, hey, here's what's happening, what do I do? And Shush hands him a gun, but it's not an actual gun. It's the gun that has the same gas pellet that was used on Batman back in issue number 1. So we got a nice little callback here. And so Robin takes that, goes and meets up with Batman, and basically Man-Bat's just soliloquying this whole time as to here's my evil plan, here's why I need to do it, turn everyone into bats or kill everyone, whatever the hell he's trying to do. Robin gets to Batman, hands him the gun, gets to the point where he's close enough to Man-Bat, shoots it, and it is those gas pellets. And if you remember from issue number 1, all the bats started attacking Batman then. They basically do the same for Man-Bat. So all the bats attack, and it has kind of the inverse effect to Man-Bat, whereas Batman was going kind of crazy, deranged. Man-Bat actually returns back to Dr. Langstrom, which is who he is in his human form. So he's neutralized, he's done. Now we got to deal with all the bats. They were close enough to the ground where Robin on his Robin mobile type thing shoots a whole bunch of freeze rays, which freezes the bats. that allows them to get them, extract whatever this poison is, and then save the bats. So bats are good. Man-bats neutralized. Saved the day. So from there, we have Flatline as well, who's like kind of like pseudo Robin's girlfriend, not really. And she decides that she's going to skip out on town. So as she decides to leave, they have their little goodbyes and everything. And when she's going, apparently there's this ghost or this entity that's kind of like haunting her. And it's a ghost of Ra's al Ghul. It's like, you were supposed to send Robin my message and you never did. And Flatline's like, Robin didn't need that right now. We're going to deal with that later. So that's going to be something that happens, or at least foreshadowing in the future. So we'll see what all that's about. And with all that too, Mistress Hatred or whatever, Mistress Harm, Hush, whatever it is. Mistress Hurt, I think that's what it is. Anyways, she's taken care of. All the kids are neutralized. They need like therapy or whatever, so they're going to be taken care of. No issues there. And so Batman, or Bruce, and Robin, Damian, are having a nice little moment where they're having dinner out on the roof, and they get a call basically that, hey, we've now found Bane and he's out on like Dinosaur Island or something like that, and so you need to go after him. So setting up what the next arc is going to be. So 10 is the conclusion here. 11 is where we're going to get to the next spot. Now remember, these books came out quite a while ago because we're like way into the future. I already cut off the books at like issue number 20, so nearly halfway through the backlogs here, but still quite a ways to go. This one came out back in June of 2024. But a great book, a great conclusion to this arc here. I really enjoyed it. Again, 4, and we gave it a 3.9. So let's go into the artwork here as we're closing it out. As I say for this one, it feels like there's a lot of anime or manga influence in this book, and it continues that way. Curious if it's a new art team that starts up on the new arc for issue 11, but for 10, it's still kind of the same group here, which has been good. So as you can see, that's where Langstrom turns back to basically his human form. Here's where the arrest basically takes place, and the kids, they need to, get all better. Flatline saying her goodbyes. Ra's al Ghul, his whole thing here. The dinner that they have out on the terrace. And then Bane here, who is, Dinosaur Island. So we're going to have to deal with Bane next, which is dope. So yeah, that is Batman and Robin issue number 10. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. So that is an episode. We are all done, folks. I will go ahead and recap all the books for you. Oh, I should have mentioned that I spoiled the heck out of these books at the beginning. I realized I didn't do that. So you would have already known at this point. I hope I didn't spoil Absolute Batman for you too much. So just to recap it for you. Absolute Batman, this is the annual 2025. Awesome book. Basically Batman going after a whole bunch of Nazis and killing them off. So, or not killing them, neutralizing them. Really good stuff. Jump into that. Imperial issue number 4, just really couldn't bring this one home, which sucks because issue 1 was so good, but it kind of is what it is. Artwork's really pretty though. Rocketfellers issue number 10, Roland's sister finally catches up with her and they teleport to a different spot on Earth. Storm issue number 11, she's going to be alone on her final fight against Haddad. X-Men issue number 21, we got a filler here where they take out the I always forget the name. The Outstarts. They take out the Upstarts. Emma Frost, the White Queen, issue number 3. She's on the run from Shaw's people and trying to figure out what her next move is. Phoenix, issue number 14, in the White Hot Room, trying to figure out how to save her sister, Sarah Gray, and has all the incarnations of Phoenixes to back her up. Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 35. We figure out what happened to Anansi's first heralds of Arachne, and we're about to face our final trial back in Brooklyn. Death of a Silver Surfer. Just not a good book. Issue number 5. Kind of a struggle. Artwork was great, but such a convoluted story. And then Batman and Robin issue number 10. This is the conclusion to our Man-Bat arc. Looks like Gotham is safe for now, but we're going after Bane next. So yeah, those are the 10 books. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll obviously have our regularly kind of programmed Saturday issue where we'll have 10 books. I already picked out 6 or so backlogs. I should be able to get my books on Thursday. So, sometimes I'll plan out a bunch of backlogs, but if I get to the books sooner than, or get to pick them up from the store, then I'm just able to read to them. Then I'll just go ahead and pivot to reading the more current ones, especially for the Saturday issue. So we actually may be able to read more. It just depends on how many I get through really on Wednesday and then potentially Thursday morning. But yeah, I'm off on Thursday, which is nice. So I should be nice and ahead and get everything recorded on Friday, which would be good. Just makes it that much easier to get it all posted for Saturday. So yeah, with that, I think we'll go ahead and close it out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, you can follow everything in the description from like a social media perspective. Please like, subscribe, comment, share to folks that you think would be interested in a comic book podcast. Sharing obviously is caring, and it helps to just get the awareness out there on the podcast. So that's much appreciated. So thanks again. I think we'll go ahead and close it out, and I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.